see that...
Let me tell you, if an idea is not totally opposite and crazy than what everyone else is doing, it has no hope.
So if you would repeat what you said about the days, like how you said
Yes.
let it grow and then
Sure.
50 days. And
You see, it's not a little bit different. It's totally opposite of what everybody's doing.
It is.
Let's imagine this is the farm, and we start to graze here, come down, come up, come down, and it's a spring, so it grows very fast. When we reach here, this one is ready or it will go away from us. So what we do, instead of trying to cover the whole farm and then having everything run away from us, we come back here and we start again, and then we allow all of this part of the farm to grow ungrazed.
So that's like 2/3. So you're grazing.
Depending on the year, it will be, we can cover 1/3 or half. Depends on the year. Some years will be better, some years will not be as good. The recipe is that as soon as the first paddock is ready, you come back. Okay?
And you
now,
say you're waiting 50 days. You're waiting 50 days or 21 to 50 days.
And it will vary. At the first time, you're going to have to cover more land because it will start to grow from nothing. But the second year, we will have the rest of the farm stockpiled, and we will meter it out so you're not finish it until at least 2 or 3 weeks into the green up. We don't want the cows to be grazing short green grass in early spring or they will get scours. We want them to be grazing stockpiled grass that has brown stuff along with the green to balance the ration. I'm going to do another class of grass management. I don't know when will that be, soon enough I hope, where we will cover all that. Right now it's mostly preparing for winter.
Okay.
But that's the introduction. That's how we do it. Then we alternate those areas. When we graze this year, we will allow it to rest next year, and we will start in another area.
At what point do you go from the stockpile to when the new grass hits a certain height?
Yeah,
that's
when it's mature enough to not create scours. I'm going to show some pictures. I don't know if in this presentation or the next one, but yes. Tall grazing shades out the growing points. As I was saying, the growing points are close to the ground, and if we continuously shade them out by trying to trample it and not graze it, they will start to die off, and on the second year, we're going to start getting wider interplant spacing. When we graze non-selectively, the growing points are exposed to the sunlight, and the plants tiller more, like a lawn when it's mowed. And this allows for a better leaf-to-stem ratio. This produces a much higher energy sward, because more leaf, more energy, and more carbon being returned to the soil. Exudates, or sugars, or liquid carbon, feed the bacteria in the soil when photosynthesis is enhanced. I took a short course with Dr. Christine Jones from Australia. She's the leading expert right now, along with Elaine Ingham, on soil biology. And anytime we can enhance photosynthesis, more carbon, CO2 from the atmosphere is being returned as sugars to the rhizosphere, where the microbes live, and they in return explode in growth and feed the plant through the nutrients that they release. So anytime we can spray raw milk, or we can spray a compost extract, or we can make the plants have more photosynthesis, we're going to enhance microbes' life in the soil. We want more life in the soil, not less. This is the effect of continuous shade on the growing points. On a clump grass, this is eastern gamma grass. When it's allowed to grow tall and not grazed properly, some plants will be ungrazed and some plants will be overgrazed. The ungrazed plants will look like this. They will start to die in the middle and only be green on the outside of the clump. And if you pull these shoots here, they will come out and it will smell rotten because they have rotted because of lack of sunlight. So we don't want this. By properly managing this and taking it down post-grazing, new growing points will start to appear and we can fill it back up. But let's not allow this to happen. Next one, please. This is a high leaf-to-stem ratio on torpedo grass, panicum repens in Florida, that is managed for high quality. You can see here, every mouthful that the bite that the cow gets will be high in leaf and low in fiber, low in stems. Now I was talking a little about genetics. I have another talk that is about creating efficient converters of grass to beef. It's very desirable to have high relative intake animals that can thrive under non-selective grazing. If we bring genetics that are high inputs, developed under selective grazing or high grain supplementation, they will not be able to do this. To take a very low quality forage and convert it into beef. They will lose production and they will need to be babied or pampered. We don't want that. We want animals like this one with a big gut capacity and that can be healthy under this type of management. Next one. Okay, this is a Machona bull that we have. It's the best one we have. We had. It's A2. That means the protein in the milk, but it also means not only that we can digest it better, but the calves that are fed that milk will be able to produce more beef per pound of milk, because it's better digestible for them too, not only for us. Yes? It curdles faster, so they can get more out of it, of the milk.
Very muscly.
Very, and that's difficult to find in a Machona. That's why we selected him as the best, and we have bred him, and his son is the best, and his grandson is the best of each generation. Because good genes run in family. It's adapted to heat and low quality forages. Next one. And this is his son. Notice the hip height to length ratio. That means not only that he is correctly hormone balanced, but he achieved early sexual maturity and his long bones stopped elongating. So he stopped growing in height, but he kept growing lengthwise. So that means that he's early sexual maturity, early marbling, and an efficient converter of beef, of grass to beef. And his daughters will be able to maintain good body condition under non-selective grazing. So that's what we're looking for. He's not mature yet. He's close to 3 years and he weighs 1,167 pounds in that picture.
And when you feed them, how much do they weigh?
Around 440 pounds. They're not big cattle. They're short cattle, but very thick.
450 is big enough.
Next one. What you say is very true. Do we want the biggest winning weights or do we want big enough?
Big enough.
Optimum is big enough. So we want optimum. Nature doesn't like extremes. The grandson, number 36, he was the best one in the 2014 ranking. We ranked them as 1 year old. I'm going to explain that maybe in the future. We measure the height at the hip, we weigh them, and if they are correctly hormone balanced, then we rank them according to the predicted mature weight, according to the height, and we divide the actual yearling weight between the future and mature weight, and we come up with a percentage of maturity attained at 1 year of age. Since he was this big, we knew he was going to be exceptional. He was following the cows in heat around. That's another measurement. Next one, please. This is another good Machona bull, mature. Next one. This is a very good Angus bull that we selected in the mountains of Chihuahua on a ranch that we're consulting for. See the hip height to length ratio and the crest here and the muscling he has. He's extremely masculine, so he will give extremely feminine daughters. Masculinity is caused by testosterone, and femininity is caused by estrogen. So if we have a very high estrogen testosterone bull, he will give a very high estrogen daughters. That's called dimorphism. Next one, please. Another good Angus bull, hip height to length ratio and masculinity. Next one. This is a Mashona limousine calf in Florida and a ranch that we sold some bulls to. This is a 3-month-old. Yeah, very good muscle. Meat to bone ratio is very important. Next one. Good inherent body condition. That means nutritional adaptation is the most important component. She is able to maintain this good body condition on non-selective grazing at 3 times the stocking rate on low-quality grasses.
Has she had babies yet?
Every year. So if you bring an animal like that to an environment like this, they will get overfat. That means you need more cows, so they don't get overfat. Next one. We can run into what we call high density, but not high enough. If we put them in a small enough area that they dung and foul everything fast, but they don't consume it before they foul it, that's what we call high density, but not high enough, because cattle will graze the best species and plants, parts of plants first, then they will dung and foul the grass with the manure, urine, and dragging their hoof. They avoid grazing where it smells bad, and this reduces the quantity and quality of forage on offer and diminishes grazing efficiency. What needs to be done there is give them a smaller break and more frequent moves. I never move them less frequently than twice a day. This is what we're talking about by high enough stock density, but not high enough. High stock density, but not high enough. This is 1 move per day on low quality grass, high in fiber. We were trying to have them graze the top third. I came to take a course, and they told us it's so important that the cattle graze the top third. So I went back and tried it. And they grazed 1/3 of the grass, and they left 2/3 of the grass untouched. That's the way cattle graze. Next one, please. So he said, you need to move them faster. Okay, so I moved them 2 times. But it was too large an area because we tried them to graze only the top third. When you try to graze the top third, what actually happens in reality is that they graze selectively. This is a monoculture, only Bahia. Now imagine if it was a diverse species composition. Even worse. We are using compost extract. We spray it out. It takes 40 minutes to make, and then you go out and spray it with liquid fish and molasses, and that makes the minerals in the soil more available. We're using the free choice cafeteria style minerals, and so the cows can select if they need magnesium today and tomorrow phosphorus, they can choose it. But when we apply this, they go up to 3 months without eating even white salt.
They don't even go to it.
Nothing. And they are sleek and productive, yes.
How do you put the compost in?
This is a compost extract. So we use a machine to extract the soluble nutrients and the microbes from the compost by the way of a cyclone with a positive displacement pump. And we use 1.5 pounds per acre of compost. The cost per acre is $7 per acre. Very cheap. And we don't use any chemicals ever. And it's our main fertility input. That's all we do. That and the recycling of nutrients with the cows. You see, if you take a carbohydrate or a plant, it may be 2 to 3% minerals, and the rest will be carbohydrates that it takes from the air. CO2 is carbon, oxygen, and water is H2O. So by photosynthesis, it breaks the bond in the water, the plant, and then it can create a carbohydrate. And a carbohydrate with an amine group at the end, NH2, becomes an amino acid. And a chain of amino acids becomes a protein. So everything comes from the air and from the water. Most everything. This is what I use to put out the fence and roll it up faster. Next one, there are many ways to do it, but this is one. This is moving the herd to the new paddock. I park the ATV in a fiberglass post, then I can stand behind the ATV as they come around, and I can watch each one on the left flank to make sure they are full. This is the type of grazing I do. See how it's taken down?
How wide are your...
This? From here to here, let me think.
Yeah, how wide your paddocks are.
150 wide by like 500 feet deep. But that will change according to the season and the growth. And in that situation, it was twice a day. In the winter, we do 4 times a day. I'm going to show you some of that. When they calve on mature green grass, we have much less calving problems. That's the first calf. Why? Because green, cool season grass without maturing will be very high in potassium, and that will create leaking of the cell, because the cell osmotic pressure is governed by potassium inside and sodium outside. When you have too much potassium, it leaks out, creates other edema, and creates a big birth weight on the calf. So we don't want them. We want a smaller birth weight. So we have them calving into mature grass, and then we don't have that problem. So we have to time our calving season. Yeah, in the cell, let's say this is the cell. That's what I want to do, the easel. In the cell, I'm going to give another talk about nutrition. In the cell, inside the cell, the potassium controls the osmotic pressure. The osmotic pressure is what allows food to come in and waste to go out. Outside the cell is the sodium that controls the osmotic pressure. So they need to be in balance, a ratio. So it doesn't leak out, and it doesn't take too much energy to take food in and waste out. But when they are consuming too much potassium, like in a green, lush spring grass, they will have too much potassium inside, and it will start to leak out, causing other edema and bigger birth weights in the calf. Mm-hmm. High fiber forages need higher stock density for selection not to occur. You may say that doesn't matter to me because I only have low fiber forages. Yeah, but in winter it's going to be dry, so it's going to be higher in fiber. So in winter you need to move them more frequently at higher densities, and in the growing season less frequently at lower densities. This is a picture of the perfect manure pie. This is how they should look. See, there is a depression in the middle, and it's well digested. If you move it with a stick, it's well digested, and it should smell sweet. When it smells sour, something is not right. When it smells strong. Next one. Another perfect manure. This is how it should look. Next one. This is telling us it requires protein to be efficiently digested, the fiber. This is in Billings, Montana. Last week or 10 days ago, they were feeding this grass, and they say that in Billings, Montana, they never require protein. Well, you can see the fiber, big pieces not being digested. So I suggest that they feed some low-quality alfalfa hay. So they agreed to feed 6 pounds of 2-year-old alfalfa hay. This is still the low quality. Next one. Here they are feeding the 6 pounds of alfalfa per steer. It was 560 steers, and they were gaining like 3 pounds a day. So it's very important to keep them gaining. After 2 days of supplementing with alfalfa, it reduced the size of the manure. Instead of like this, it came back down to this is the chew of him, and now it's better digested. And all we did was go up from 6% protein to 8% protein. So now we get better digestion, and we can keep on the high daily gain more into the fall and not have to sell them before. So the cost of this was very low and the return very high. It's spending pennies to get back dollars. So to me that makes sense, because we're not doing anything but enhancing a natural process, which is fiber digestion in the room. Next one. Dung beetle activity. Do you have dung beetles here?
Yeah.
Good. That's very important. Whenever you see the soil churned up by the dung beetles, they are there working. Next. This is after 2 days after the cows left the paddock on the sandy soil of Florida. Next. This is 4 days after. They are taking all the manure down. Next. And this is 8 days later. Only the crust is remaining and the grass is pushing it out. So now the cows can return and there will not be repugnancy around the manure. And the nitrogen will not be turned into a gas and escape. It will be into the ground and feed the plants. They did a study in Australia. They didn't have dung beetles there, so they brought some from Africa. And production per acre went up 25%, thanks to the dung beetle. When we apply wormers to our cows or insecticides for the hornfly, we kill the dung beetle. And we are losing 25% of production. So they are very important insects for us. This is high numbers of dung beetle in Oklahoma. That's a different species that we don't have. Next one. There are like 300 species. I brought the gazelle from the dung beetle lady in Gainesville. I brought $300 worth of it because we didn't have any. And now we are overrun with dung beetles. So, very good.
So you're not worming your cows?
Ever. No. Mm-mm. We have parasite-resistant cows. We don't want to create wormer-resistant parasites.
Right.
When you worm your cattle, the immune system is weakened to where they will require periodic wormers. If you never worm them, they will build up immunity. Now, if your herd doesn't have the high immune systems, it will be wise to put in some genetic that has it, like the Mashona. They do have it, because they've never been wormed in all their history.
Wow.
If we start to worm them, we'll end up with a weakened herd. Yes?
Do you use any probiotics?
Yes, we use the cornpulse. Cornpulse is an energy supplement to enhance the rumen digesting the fiber, and it also fits it's a probiotic. But we only use it when necessary, like in winter, or when we adapted this herd from New Mexico to Florida. The first 40 days, we fed a little, and that's it. Okay, someone was asking me, how do you know how many days to allow the grass to grow before the protein is below 8%? This is in the tropics in Mexico, but this is the number of months between each grazing. 1 grazing, 2 grazings, 4 grazing, 8 grazing, 16 grazings in 6 months period. And this is the amount of forage produced on each different one. So as you come back sooner, you produce less but higher quality, because this is the amount of digestible protein per acre in percentages. Everything is in percentages. So there will be a point in any environment where you get a high enough quality but a lower production. In this case, that you have such high quality forages like full season grasses, it will be mostly like every 50 days, will be every 2 months. So that will be high enough protein and high production per acre. That's your unfair advantage that you have here. You can graze not so frequently, not so young forage, and still have good enough quality for the animal to perform well.
Is this before it goes to seed? Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Sometimes the environment is so good that it can go to seed and still be high quality. For example, in eastern Colorado, it can be 2 years old and still be high enough quality. You don't require any protein. So people from eastern Colorado tell people in Florida to never feed protein. They do it and the cows die.
Okay.
So you have to adapt to each different environment. Here in Rocco said 50 days, it sounds very reasonable. Maybe in early spring, if you don't have stockpile, you have to feed some corn stubble along with the grass. But in 50 days, it will be mature enough. Okay, next one, please. This is in the growing season. You see less density, but we still try to graze non-selectively. This is 21 days old grass. Next one. Alternating the areas of use. That's what we were talking, your question. In the growing season, we manage for quality on 1/3 to 1/2 of the range. Quality in this environment means every 50 days, maybe 60. We save the other 2/3 to a half of the ranch to have forage for street grazing in the winter, the non-growing season. When the forage in the graze area is finished, that means late fall, that we finish everything. Not that we get frost and it stops growing, no, when we finish it. So we go around one more time to finish everything. When that's finished, we start on the deferred area with ultra-high density grazing, 4 breaks a day. And we alternate these 2 areas every year. That's the main breakthrough that Johan taught me. The stockpile areas and graze areas in the growing season. Non-selective grazing with relatively short recovery periods gives us the best quality forage throughout the growing season. That's when we have to calve, that's when we need them to rebreed, so we want them in good body condition. That's because we can carry body condition into the winter. That's another form of spending less money, taking the cow as fat as she can be into the winter. Alternating these areas in the ranch in the growing season with the stockpile areas allows for a higher productivity, better forage quality, and high succession to better species composition by doing this. If we don't alternate these areas every other year, we will not achieve optimum results. And this has been the secret to our success in Florida. If we hadn't done this, we wouldn't be where we are now, because we started with 30% grass, 70% bare sand. Yes.
Are there any issues in your stockpiled area if it's something like Johnson grass that will then grow, 8 feet tall?
Very good.
But it's supposed to get the prussic acid in it if
No.
it gets that tall?
No.
And so if I didn't come back and graze it early enough, do I have to worry if I waited till winter?
Oh, you mean when you stockpile it, it will grow 8 feet tall.
It will, very quickly.
It will grow 8 feet tall. Then come winter, you're going to graze it down non-selectively. But you will going to be required to feed them some protein so they can digest that low protein forage. High fiber, high lignin, low protein. If you don't feed the protein, the cow will lose body condition. Don't worry about the prussic acid. Prussic acid is a problem when the grass gets frosted or in a drought, and then it greens up and it starts to regrow. That's when you get prussic acid. Yes.
Do you have recommendations for protein?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sure. Alfalfa hay is the best. Alfalfa hay. We use flaxseed meal because it's non-GMO. We're totally against GMO or Roundup after seeing what we saw there. Even the stockpile areas will have a better leaf-to-stem ratio as they were subjected to non-selective grazing the previous growing season. Okay. So that means it starts all new. No old stems there to hamper. By allowing them to grow for a full growing season, the plant density will be higher and the species composition will be better. This full rested area becomes a magnet for wildlife, thus increasing biodiversity. Deer, turkey, any rabbits, everything will go there. Nobody's going there for 6 months. Each species of wildlife that comes into the farm, even insects, will bring along another 7 species. Might be microscopic, but they will bring them in. So if we want resiliency in our farms, we need more biodiversity. Above and below ground. Next one, please. We use a fiberglass post and we put the 12 gauge wire, and then we put this little piece of wire. Why? Because then an animal hits it and it will slide, and we can take it off and lower it to pass machinery or to create a gate, an Argentinian gate with a post, and then the cows go under and you don't have to spend more money. Next one. We use a fiberglass post, but 5/8 of an inch for corners for polywire. By the way, we don't use polywire anymore. It's polytwine. It's much stronger, and it doesn't cut your fingers. Non-selective grazing leads to better succession. The first year that we started, we allowed this area to stockpile, and we started getting hairy indigo. It's a legume, a naturalized legume from India, Indigofera hirsuta. 24% protein, deep taproot, and there is the cowboy with the horse. Next one. This is the second year. See how as the soil improves, the plants can grow deeper and taller. So that is around this high. That first year it was this high. This is the Illinois bundle flower that you could plant here. I think that's the premier perennial legume you can grow here. Next. Here the cows graze. This is in Oklahoma, near the Missouri border, and it grows very well there in ranches that have been managed correctly. In other ranches, they don't even know of its existence. It never expresses itself. But they sell the seed. It's not very expensive. Next one. And now we're going to talk about cover crops or overseeding pasture that's been degraded in the past. We can increase the human content on degraded pastures faster because humus is the real fertility of the land, not NK, or not, no, it's humus, which is made up of decomposed bodies of microbes, mostly. And we can increase the humus content faster by overseeding some areas for fall grazing and then for winter grazing. That's what we're doing on the worst areas of the ranch. We use cowpeas, dung grass, millets, lab, sun hemp, Egyptian wheat, all very drought resistant because we planted them in the summer. The summer is when sometimes we don't get rain, like this year. June, we didn't get any rain. It's supposedly the rainiest month of the year, didn't rain. And after grazing it off, we no-tilled in a 6-species winter annual crop. Or we have a good pastures, we don't mess with that. We just alternate the rest periods of a full growing season, not graze, and then graze it down intensively, and next year rotationally grazed, and next year left to grow. But on the worst areas, we can improve that faster by doing some cover crops. Next one. This is the cover crop the first year on the worst areas after 38 days of growth. We use a lot of legumes because did you know that nitrogen is released by organic matter? So when you have 1% organic matter per acre, you are releasing 40 pounds of nitrogen. When you have 8% organic matter, you're releasing 320 pounds of nitrogen per acre. Why would we need fertilizer if we have 8% organic matter? Well, because we don't have 8% organic matter. So let's build it. And this is the fastest way to build it, with legumes. Legumes will fix nitrogen from the air. Do you know that the air we breathe is not only oxygen? It has 78% nitrogen. But plants cannot use it as the way it is. They need it in a nitrate form. So we need the legumes to do it for us by the rhizobium. Yes?
How did you get, and I planted a similar mixture that just didn't do that well, actually on my best area, but how do you start from a poor area to get it to grow something like that with no inputs?
With no what?
No input, no fertilizer, no inputs.
The number one input, or what you should start with, mycorrhiza. You inoculate the seed with mycorrhiza and with the rhizobium that it requires. When we did that, our take was so much better. If you don't do that, many of the seedlings, if you don't apply some fertilizer, chemical, will die when they are this big and you don't even see it. You just get a bad take. But when you apply the mycorrhiza and all that, you get that or better. It's little details, but they're very important. Next one, please. This was with mycorrhiza this year. We applied mycorrhiza and rhizobium, but you see this is mainly sorghum and the legumes coming up. I left for 40 days. I went on a tour of teaching the schools, the different states. When I came back, it was only the legumes and no sorghum, because we had a plague of locusts and they ate all the sorghums. If we didn't plant a mixture, that would have been a failure. thanks to us planting a mixture, we still have a lot of forage. It's this big now, and it's double the forage that we had last year on the same piece of ground. So it's improving very fast. Next one, please. This is 60 days old. That's already this high, the same as this year. Next. It's high quality. This is a sun hemp, a legume, cowpea, lab, and Japanese millet and pearl millet. Next one, please. That's at 80 days. This is already like this. Next one. Remember, our main goal is to improve the soil. To do that, we require cattle that can prosper under that type of management. So this is, I had to go with the ATV twice to trample it down, and then I can put the electric fence, and this is as high as it got before starting to graze. So you can imagine the amount of tonnage per acre and the amount of root mass that will be left after grazing. And then all that will be recycled through the manure and urine of the animals to the soil in a homogeneous way. Okay, next one. There, that the herd is full and ruminating after grazing it down. Yeah. Next one. This is the residue the first year. Now it's going to be much higher. As you create more forage, you leave more residue. We have the locusts, the big ones left already. So we have the millions of baby ones. So I want to finish it with the cows before they eat it. And then I'm going to plant the two species that they did in the board. That was cowpea and pearl millet. With the mycorrhiza and the inoculum, the rhizobium. After that is grazed off in November, then I'm going to come in with the winter annuals. So I had two choices with the plague of locusts. I could use an insecticide, or I could buy more seed. I preferred the second choice. Next one. And then after that, we planted the winter annuals. There they are coming up. Another 6 species. Tiller radish, crimson clover, white clover, sweet clover, Cuban, and ryegrass, and oats.
So the first crop was no-till, and this one was broadcast?
No, this is no-till.
No-till.
No, I'm talking about the tall stuff. That's no-till?
Both.
Both are no-till.
We had to disc the first time and use the keyline plow. Just haven't seen the keyline plow? Here? Okay. Because when you invert the soil, the anaerobic bacteria, you put them exposed to air, so they die. And the aerobic bacteria, which are in the top 2 inches, you bury them under the ground and they die. So that's the worst thing you can do to soil. So we break the hardpan with the keyline plow because we had a hardpan. Hardpans are created by lack of root activity. When you have root activity, they don't reform if you do it right. And then we only disc this much. Yes.
Yeah, no-till on that.
Then after that, no-till, and we hope to continue doing that. We're aiming for 7 years of this. Then we cannot begin to fully comprehend nature, but we can read nature. Nature is too complex for us to understand fully, but we can read. So I'm going to read it. Next one, please. Increasing carrying capacity, which we agreed that is the main determinant of profit. As results, after 3.5 years, we carried 640 animals total on 200 acres of perennial tropical pastures in the growing season right now. 150 acres are overseeded to a summer pasture crop, as in the pictures. 50 acres are overseeded to tropical legumes for late summer grazing. This was the plan. It changed. With the locusts, it changed. 150 acres of summer growing tropical perennials are stockpiled for its use in early winter. That's the Bahia, Angola, torpedo grass, and Bermuda. We started with only Bahia grass, and in 3.5 years we have 4 species of perennial grasses. A total of 550 acres, 640 animals on 550 acres. Of this total, we can irrigate 160 acres. And that's it. Next, please. This is the start of the stockpile last month and this year. So this is what is going to be grazed in January. December, January. by February, we should have winter annuals ready. Next. That's how we control the hornfly without chemicals. So we have a problem with hornfly. It's very hot down there. When we move them from paddock to paddock, we devised this. We as a team devised this. This is a 12-volt pump with a tank from Tractor Supply, and we made this that we pull with the ATV, and it has nozzles. And in those nozzles, the formula is very simple. We use Dawn soap, a big bottle of Dawn soap. Then we fill a 5-gallon bucket with food-grade diatomaceous earth. We put the bottle of Dawn soap, and then we add half a gallon of orange oil. Then we put water in, and we mix it with a paint mixer on a cordless drill. Mix it together, and then we put it to the tank, and we add another 5 gallons of water, and we mix it with the cordless drill, and then we train the cows to go through it. We have to earn their trust. And then they like it. When they notice that no hornfly, they go easy. This is also high-density grazing on hairy indigo, but look at their body condition.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
So that's what we want. We want healthy animals all year round. This is in the fall, like October. After we get frost, it loses the leaf. But then we have Bahia grass and hairy indigo.
Did they have babies?
Our calving season is 42 days long now. It's from 1st of June to the 15th of July, more or less. When do you have the most grass? In the winter or in the summer?
Spring, summer.
In here it will be spring. Over there it starts to rain in June. So that's when we have the most grass.
So you're having them when you have the most grass?
Yes, because a cow, when she calves, or a little before calving and after calving, she requires double the nutrition than when she's dry. So by timing the calving to what nature is providing, we can have more cows, and the main determinant of profit on a ranch is the amount of cows we can carry. And another very important thing, the colostrum from the cow builds up the immune system of the baby. What will be the colostrum quality in winter, and what will be the colostrum quality in the green growing season? They did some research, and an animal that was born in the growing season, green growing season, was, I think, 2 times less likely to get sick in his life than an animal that was born in the non-growing season. So that's very important.
Oh, yeah.
Next one. I was asked, how did you start the first year? Who asked that? So this is the first year. See how I cannot make them tighter because we don't have enough grass. This is the grass, then sand, grass, sand, grass, sand, like that. That's where the strips where they sprayed the Roundup. So this is the tightest I could get them without them losing body condition. Next one. But on the fall of the third year, last year, we could put them much tighter because we had much more forage per square yard. If we didn't do this, they would waste a lot by fouling. But always know that their body condition, we don't ever want to see them thin. Never. It's against our interest and against...
What's the word with that?
That's one thing, but we are also stewards of the land, and that includes the cattle. So we have to take good care of them. It's our moral responsibility.
Living beings.
They are living beings. They are smart.
They are.
Next one. Optimum body condition, even on low-quality frosted grasses with correct protein supplementation. How much? Just to get to 8% protein. Very easy. And now we have a lot of these birds coming around, and we love them because they bring more life with them. The first year we didn't have them. They had been poisoned out. Next one. That's how they look. They're grazing this small area, and this has already been grazed. Do you notice all the manure, how it's there? So next year, this was last year. Next year, this is very productive. And well, I was there 2 days ago. It was beautiful. Next. With the correct mineral and protein supplementation program, we can get them as healthy and shiny as they are, with caps on their side going into winter. That's a very poor soil. If we didn't have that correct, they would not be that way. Next one. Now, why do we need to move them so frequently? Why can't we just move them every week? Well, the frequent moves will ameliorate or lessen the effects of the low quality forage. In winter, it will be much lower quality than in spring or fall. After the first few hours on the paddock, depending on paddock size, forage on offer will be lower in quality because they eat the best parts first. The microorganisms in the rumen require a constant quality or diet for optimum digestion efficiency, because there are like 4 or 5 groups of microorganisms in the rumens. One will digest the fiber, another the sugars, another the cellulose, another the oils. So they need to be in balance because they compete against each other. Another the starches. By giving frequent breaks, harvest efficiency is maximized and quality intake is uniform, leading to better animal performance. So we do it for the interest of the cattle. That's why we do it for. Next. This will be the days in a paddock, and this will be the total intake of nutrients. If we move them every 7 days, the first day they will eat a lot of good quality, and then it will go down every day till on the 7th day they are moved to the next paddock, and then the cycle repeats. So those 4 or 5 different groups of microorganisms will be constantly changing in quantity, trying to adapt to the changing diet. That's not efficient. If we want to double the stocking rate and still move them every 7 days, the quality and the quantity of nutrient intake will go down faster to where on the 7th day there's nothing left, and then we move them to the next paddock, and then the differences are even higher and the performance will suffer more. But if on a day, if we move them 4 times a day, the quality goes up and then down. Why doesn't it go all the way up? Because we force them to eat everything. Why doesn't it go down all the way down? Because they are mixing the good with the bad, or the desirable with the less desirable. So we move them every 2 hours and we get the best performance without losing the capacity of efficient harvest. It won't be as high as if we allow them to select. It will be slightly lower. That's why we need to supplement or have a better genotype. If we can supplement a little protein and have a better genotype, we can double and triple our profits per acre.